Alright, welcome back everyone to another video, and in this one we are trying something very fun. So most of the times when you see any graphics related stuff on ARM, the question arises, can it run Crysis? And today we are finally going to answer that. So yes, it works, spoiler alert. You've already seen the title of the video and there's a reason I uploaded it, but I'll take you through some specific steps. Your mileage might vary, but this is how I did it. So I'm going to run it on a Honeycomb. For those of you who don't know, it's a full system ready ES certified platform. It boots like a PC, it acts like a PC. It's an ARM architecture hardware. It has Cortex A72, so they are the same cores as a Raspberry Pi 4, but there are 16 of them, and you can get up to 64 gigs of SODIMM memory on it. I've already done a video on it. If you want to see what the hardware actually is, I'll link it. Otherwise, let's just continue. It's a ARM PC platform. It has an AMD Radeon graphics that works. So yeah, let's just see it. I'll boot it right now so you guys can see like how the BIOS and everything looks. I am booting Debian Bookworm on it, and one of the main reason to boot Debian Bookworm on it is because of kernel 5.14, which has much better support for the Honeycomb than the previous ones. And so here's the boot menu for it. Just boots up in EFI base bootloader, and I'm just going to run Debian from here and select Debian. As I said, this is Debian Bookworm, so Debian unstable. And then we'll go into the specifics of running Windows games on your ARM hardware. Alright, so here are the 16 Cortex A72 CPUs, and we have 64 gigs of memory, 62 usable, and then an RX 560. And here's the GPU working with Mesa 21.2. Right, now to the fun stuff. What you need to do is to install Wine. Now I am using Debian's default Wine 5 instead of the Wine HQ's Wine 6 release. For me, Wine 5 worked fine. So if I do, but before we run Wine, it needs to be an AMD 64 version of Wine. So you need to go follow Debian's documentation to add AMD 64 as a secondary architecture. Right, before I go into the specifics, I just want to start a demo and show you so that you don't have to wait till the end. And if you want to learn how to do it, you can wait till the end. So here's Crysis running. Oh. Alright, so you need to make sure that your Wine mode, the compatibility mode is in the Windows XP mode, otherwise it freaks out. So it's in Windows 7, that won't work, at least for me. Put it on Windows XP, and now we should be fine. And here we go. So because I'm using box 86, and I'll talk about that in a bit more, it's a compatibility layer that compiles on the fly, sort of recompiles on the fly, or translates on the fly your x86 code into ARM64 or ARM32 code, and that gets executed on the ARM CPU. Because of that, that compatibility layer, the performance is not that good. Although box 86 is one of the best ones out there. It's the fastest available. It's what I'd say replaces Exagear in performance, or even better. So you can run stuff like this. It does Vulkan, and that's what I'm using. So there's box 64 to box 86 to get x86 code into ARM code. There's Wine to translate Windows executables to Linux executables, and then on top of that there's DXVK that converts the DirectX calls into Vulkan calls, and that's what's finally running the game. So you need an ARM CPU, you need a GPU that has Vulkan running, and then um, you need a fairly highly clocked CPU as well. Um, so let's just go and try the game out right now and see what the performance is like. I'll talk about a few other things, but so yeah, there's a lot of translations involved. It's only running on a single core for reasons I haven't checked into. Box 64 is the 64-bit implementation of box 86, and the reason is like some 64-bit structures are implemented the same way in ARM and in AMD 64 or x86 64. So it's much faster to translate translate them in 64-bit mode rather than doing it from x86 32-bit to 32-bit. So box 64 is even faster, but I haven't been able to run this game or any other game on the box 64. I have to run it in 32-bit mode using box 86 and Wine32. So a few things work with box 64. I haven't had a lot of success. Right, so this is how the game looks. Right now you can see that the performance is, I'd say, playable-ish when I'm in this area. There's bits of stutter, and a lot of that has to do with that it's loading only a single core. And if you've run Crysis before, then you'd notice that it uses a lot of CPU. It's a very CPU-bound title, and only when it uses a lot of CPU, you really take advantage of the GPU. Right now the GPU load is at like 15 to 20% max. But if I enable performance counters, that's actually running the performance counters again in x86 mode, so there's more GPU load and it cuts more on the frame rate. Right now if it's around 15, around to 10 to 15, if I run the performance counter, it drops to 8 FPS, and that's not very playable or demoable. You'd see a lot of glitches, like you can see things are a bit darker than they're supposed to be. The atmosphere is glitching right there. I don't know if it's coming up in camera, but that's happening. That's regarding another Cortex A72 bug that I'll go into detail sometime down the road. There might be other bugs in Vulkan translation from x86 32 to ARM 32. And other things, like if I open up the command console, that doesn't show up, that's just a black screen. So there's some alpha issues, transparency issues as well, which I think might also be causing the game itself to look a lot darker than it should be in this area. But yeah, this answers the question, can it run Crysis? Yes, it can, but apart from that, it can run a lot of other things, not just Crysis. So I'll play around a bit just to give you the look and feel of it. It's not the best, but when the fidelity is low, it can do better. If you force lower resolution, of course, game gets a bit more playable. But as I said, the x86 to ARM translation takes a lot of toll on the actual perf, and now we had a little hiccup there. But as I said, that takes a bit of a toll on the perf, and what ends up happening is that if you increase the graphics fidelity, so you add a higher preset or add a lower preset, if you change that, the performance doesn't change a whole lot. You'll just end up with a bit more glitches, but that doesn't really make a lot of difference in the FPS department. I don't know where that comes from. What is We just have a road that's not supposed. Oh, it's a compiling shader. What the heck? That's amazing. I don't know what glitch caused that, but that's actually amazing. Let me pause it. Anyway, I'm dead. So that answers the question: can run Crisis, but there are a few more things you can actually run with this setup. So I'm just waiting for it to respond. That is, and then we'll just leave this here, and we'll try a few more things. So I have a few more games in the arsenal, and we'll see how they respond. So one of the best ones is Max Payne, and this has been a game that I like a whole lot, and it works really well. So Max Payne 2 actually, not even the first one. It's the second one that works. I haven't tried the first one. Okay. I think that's the it's it's complaining because there's DXVK installed now. Yikes. We can create another wine prefix and run with that. So if I do wine prefix home wine dot no dxvk, that should work. All right. So yeah, without DXVK, it's fine. It's using the internal DirectX 9 to OpenGL translation now instead of Vulkan. That works as fine. Like this game runs so well. We'll see in a moment. All right. So let's see if my saves are there. All right. Right. So as you can see, if I can improve the graphics a bit. Oh, actually, doesn't give me the option. But yeah, this actually works really well. Super smooth. Um, uh, Possibly better than when I used to play it on my older machine back when the game was released. It's like super smooth. Might be a bit too smooth. Like mouse is super responsive, and there's like no artifacting, no glitches. There's some issue with the capture, but on my display it's actually much smoother than what you guys can see. But yeah, so Max Payne is working great. Max Payne 2 back, not even Max Payne 1. um yeah, so that's one of the titles, and I can go ahead and quit this and try another title. This time it's San Andreas. Where is it? Yeah, GTA SE. And here, yep. Alright, so yeah, that's GTA San Andreas working. It's not as smooth, and it stutters a lot. So that's definitely like the single core translation and not that something like GTA can use multiple cores, but like it's just one small Cortex A72 core that's pulling all the weight for the game. And GTA does require a powerful single core to actually work pretty decently. And it yeah, that what you're seeing on the recording is actually how it looks. So it's not that good, but does it technically work? Yes. From here, come on, exit. Okay, let's try something else. So another franchise that I love is Assassin's Creed, and you can actually play Assassin's Creed. I'll just run it in DX9 version. Oh, I forgot my profile. Alright, so the starting of this game, the graphics fidelity is bad. Like it's they it Edmund is in this weird dreamy world. Like this is the first, like he's been kidnapped and all that. Just it's not the best representation of what the graphics looks like for the game, but I'll go ahead and skip ahead a bit, and we'll see where that leads us. All right, so this is sort of what it looks like. Like this is rendered, this is not pre-recorded. um but I'll play forward a bit more and get some real Assassin's Creed stuff working and then show it to you. All right, so you can see this is sort of in its training mode. I'm not going to play much forward, but with not a lot of other things to render, it's actually working pretty fine. I will let's see if like a few more things come around. There's one little bug where like it's if I press move forward or move backward, it just continues to move. It doesn't stop. So like I'm not pressing any key, and then I'm not pressing any key, and it continues to move. I'm not sure what is that, the game bug or a wine bug, because if I press, I don't know what will happen now, but okay, and now it doesn't want to enter the first person view. I think it's pressing one of the buttons, but yeah, from a rendering standpoint, that's how the game looks and runs on ARM64. So yep, that's the last game. So now we go a little bit into detail about how this was all set up, and try things. So the thing is that the ARM64 implementation is not perfect, or like the 64-bit implementation of Box is not perfect. So I have Box 64 and box 86 install. So that is box 64, and that there's box 68 86. Those are installed. Those have their instructions on how to do it. So if you go to github.com box x86 and go into docs and compile, there will be instructions for different hardware, and same with box 64. You get your instructions and you can compile and install, and then you just apt-get wine, but I'll get you the exact string in a second. So you apt-get this. Let me move myself so I can see everything. Right. So you enable multi-arc support, as I said earlier, and then you apt-get apt install wine AMD64, wine 32 AMD64, wine 64 AMD64, libwine 32-bit, and then fonts wine AMD64. Once you've done this, you can simply go ahead and run wine CFG. Without DXVK, you're fine to run Max Payne and Assassin's Creed and GTA. But for Crysis, you need DXVK. Now I have DXVK here. The install.sh, the setup DXVK.sh install script does not work. It has some issues. I don't know why, but it doesn't work. So what you do is you copy the files inside x32 and x64 folders to this destination here. So to wine, no, user wine, and then drive C, and then sys Windows system 32 for x86 and syswow 64 for the 64-bit DLLs, and then all you have to do is run wine CFG once, right? Change it to XP, and then go into libraries, and you need to override a few libraries. So D3, D10, D3, D10.1, D3, D10 core, D3, D11, D3, D9, and DXGI. And what you have to do is, so you select these libraries from this list, click add, they'll show up here, and then edit and make sure everyone is on native, so Windows. So now it will use the DLL files that we just copied over to our wine drive C, and that will load DXVK and run it. So that's all you need to do to run Crysis, and then don't do the DXVK part, or have a separate no DXVK environment like I just did to run anything that runs on DirectX 9. And over box 86, it's really good. Over box 64, I need to experiment a bit more. As you can see, I have the 64-bit version of Crysis. I don't know if it shows up here, but yeah, that's the x86-64 executable. I have the bin64 patch for Crysis, and that makes the entire Crysis run in 64-bit mode. If the DXVK stuff was working fine with box 64, this would have been a much faster experience, but that's still a issue on my end. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll try to write up a blog that's a bit more step by step, but for the time being, This is how everything works. I know it's a bit more hacky than, just run this script and it'll set everything up, but that's what we want to achieve at the end. Maybe have Latris do all of this on its own rather than us having to interfere and cause issues. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.